not apply to anybody, but this is just my personal statement, or memory, I'll say. And so after I do that, if anybody else wants to, I'm sure maybe April might want to. I don't want to put you on the spot. Like Sunshine. Or TC or Joe or F or whoever wants to say whatever they want. Nancy. Okay. So what I titled this is called Great But. Rudy was born in Veracruz, Mexico during the middle of the Great Depression in 1934. At the time, his father Joseph was a 44-year-old merchant marine immigrant born in Split, Croatia. And his mother Teresa was a 17-year-old of Mexican and Spanish ancestry. Nobody truly knows how or exactly where he was born and initially raised by his parents as a child. How poor he was or how much he was loved by his parents, especially since his father was gone from home for extended periods of time. Very few people here today, maybe anywhere, really knew a lot about Rudy. Mom and Nancy knew him best as a young adult and an ex-Marine. 4 of his kids knew him best as young children. Sunshine knew him best as a middle-aged father who lived with him from birth through her young adulthood. I think his brother David really knew or understood him best. Good or bad, I think I inherited many of his traits. And I may be the most like him. Some I'm proud of, others not. Because I believe we are much alike, I always accepted who he was, his flaws included. This may have also been the way I dealt with his weirdness. My goal has been to break the chain and not to carry some of his bad traits and behavior forward to my wife and kids. Unfortunately, DNA traits can be hard to break and have not always succeeded. Thank God we have 50% of mom's DNA. But I never dwelled on the sad memories and learned from bad memories. Rudy was a simple but complex person. He was private but could be very social. Intimidating to some but very friendly to most strangers. Smart but strange. Patient but stubborn. Obsessive compulsive yet independent. Picky but not always choosy. He was a weird dude, but in an intellectual way. He did everything for a reason, even if he never explained why. Just like me. Some of what I know about my dad, and I say some of what I know about my dad, came before I was 14 years old. I was intimidated by him, but proud and fond of him. He was a great father as a young child, yet not present for most of my teens and adult life. Some of his absence was on me as an adult, and most of his absence during my teens and adulthood was by his choices, good or bad, intended or unintended. Although a real disciplinarian, he was never abusive. I don't now believe kneeling in a dark corner was mean or abusive, but I did not like it then. So it worked. I worked many weekend hours as a yard helper, hucking tools back and forth while he sweated through the hard work, oftentimes choosing the wrong tool. I was the only kid in the hood who had to work on the weekends with my dad. But I now realize the significance in establishing the work ethic I have had my entire life, and especially now, I realize this was the time I got to witness or experience some part of his life. He was successful in teaching me advanced math. He tried to pass his knowledge to his kids. It mostly worked for me. He was successful in teaching me ethics and morals, how to be a good person. It mostly worked for me. These lessons are perhaps the greatest gift I learned from him. Up until the time I was about 16 or 18 years old, I greeted him with a kiss on his cheek every time I saw him. I will always remember how much he liked us to scratch his back while watching TV in the room he built.
Oh.
Working hard and long hours in the yard, jumping on his back. I remember a few gifts he gave to me as a child: a baseball glove and a paper sack while lying in bed, a 10-speed bike at Christmas. I will remember playing catch in the front yard, he playing or introducing me to tennis, and playing darts in the living room. Although my memories of my dad as a child are mostly great, I also had some sad or bad memories, which unfortunately I have not forgotten. Most of what I learned about my dad came during the past 10 years. He finally admitted to me that he should no longer speak or treat his kids as children, whom he knew from gardenia, but to speak to us as adults. Thank God he stopped asking me 30 years ago if I had to brush my teeth or wash my hands. I never cursed at or in front of my dad. Never. I'm proud of that, but I also wonder if it was healthy. I only recall having one beer with him, but never sharing a shot together. He missed out on a lot of life with me and his family, but that was by his choice and decisions. Although never admitted to me, I'm certain he regretted it. Rudy seems to have lived a life trying to get there. He always held a good job and was a great provider for his family. He had a nice house, a few cars, motorcycle, small aluminum boat. He lived within his means. But I also remember his lack of giving as a young adult when it was needed most, so I thought. I want to believe that he would have given financially if he could, but he really never recovered financially from his failed marriages and was just trying to stay ahead. I always knew he meant well and he never intended to emotionally harm me, my brothers or sisters. During the past few years, he apologized to me on several occasions for his life choices and decisions he made, which he believed hurt my feelings. I accepted his apologies, expressed my feelings to him, and we moved on. After 50 years, I was finally able to get in his face when needed. He accepted it, and we had a very good relationship. We had some serious talks about life, death, family, and finances, but not enough. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Lessons in life. But of course, he talked mostly about his damn food. Oatmeal, nuts, Del Taco, Wiener Schnitzel, pancakes, Carl's Jr., on and on. Dude could eat like he was starving, but he would always say, "Don't worry about me, I have lots of food." Even though he really never did. Hours and hours of talks about food, UFOs, Bigfoot, and a lot of other crap and nonsense. But maybe that is what I could end up missing the most.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. If anybody else wants to say anything, feel free.
And I just want to tell you all, thank you for coming. It means a lot. And my dad, he pretty much spelled it out. The one thing we all need to learn from him is we can learn from most people that are older than us is learn from the positives and the negatives. And there's a lot to learn. And he's my best friend. I'm gonna miss him. And but thank you. And all his traits are in his children. Like it or not, it's the truth. And I lost him as about an 8 or 9 year old. Then I became me. And I was a free spirit because of my mother. She let me do what I wanted to do. But I know that there was that, the part, as you see where how I am and how I live, is because my work ethic got it from both of my parents. You get things from your parents you don't realize until you're older. But when my dad, he would, like Randy said, there's negatives about him, and there's more positive, but the negatives too. The negatives were he didn't get to know my nephews, and I told him, my nieces, I said, man, you're missing out. The greatest kids I've ever known. You know, they can do no wrong to me. All my nieces and nephews, they're very smart kids, and he knew it, but he didn't know how to reach out to them. And he came from a very small family, and he told me the only one I never loved was my mother, my brother, and my sister. That's it. That's all he ever knew, you know. So my Aunt Ellen used to tell me stories about my dad as well, and tell me stories about why he was the way he was. She explained it, and it was from being poor and having pride in himself, you know, all those kind of things. And going in the Marine Corps, of course, changed his life and made him a real strong, positive person. And he wanted to be that for everybody. But overall, I want to thank you for coming. And Angie, thank you for making everything so nice. Very nice. So, now we get Therese.
So I don't know who named TC. It's my mom or my dad, but so Therese. Okay, 1 minute. But so I'm one of course, you know, Sunshine and I are the ones who could really talk to my dad, and our dad was our daddy. He was always daddy. So I had no problems expressing my challenges with him. But the good thing was that, again, God always was still in there, you know, I could have that soft part come back to him. And, but we had our ups and downs too, but everybody has a good side and a bad side or a negative. Everyone has, you know, you can't get along with everybody. But if you talk to him, if you want to know more about food, he would tell you if you knew more about him. So one of those things that I know Sunshine and I and my mom knew, he was very much into Zen. It was a part of his life, which I think he might have gotten into it, maybe Mom, after he was in Japan. After he was in Japan in the service. I don't know when, but he studied it for a long time, and he tried to use that to help him through his struggles in life. It was hard. He had a hard life. He had happy times, and the happiest times were with you know, having his children. He loved children, babies, and so he did talk to us like we were still like 13 years old for our whole life. It was like that. But like I said, if you did get to get a little bit deeper and ask him some other things, and like Randy said, like the math, and Sunshine knew too, the math was really a big thing. He was an excellent teacher with things that he knew a lot of, which he knew a lot of a lot. He was a very, very smart man, and I will miss him, and I'm so glad I got to see him on July 30th, 2 weeks before he passed. And I got to take him his McDonald's hamburgers and do some grocery shopping for him. And you know, at that point, I knew that we needed to step in a little bit more, but you just never know, right? So I do want to read just one thing here, okay? You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all he's left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back. Or you can do what you want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. And that's what he would want, because, you know, he was in the present. That's where he was in his life, and I feel that he knew and was ready for that day. So, yeah, thank you, everybody, for coming today.
Oh, honey. Oh.
For all my 3 siblings, right? So they pretty much said a lot that
3.5.
I could have said 3.5. So she hasn't come up with it. To follow them, the last time I saw my father was with my son Joshua. Thank God, went to go see him. I said, "What would you like to eat?" And he said, "I want to go to Applebee's." How fancy! It's a song. Take him to Applebee's. You get him in there, and you're looking at the menu, and he starts looking through it. I don't need the menu, F. "Oh, what would you like, Dad?" "I want the custom burger." I'm looking at the menu for the custom burger because I'm thinking that sounds good. I want the custom burger too. He's looking for the custom burger. The waitress comes over. I go, "I don't see the custom burger." And apparently they know his routine. So she looks at me and she goes, "Don't worry about it. I got him. He's a regular." So they bring the custom burger out. Meticulous. You walk just like you walk into his house. He's got his mail organized, dress right dress, just like the Marine Corps taught him, right? Everything in his life was that way. He's put together. Starts eating his burger. He cuts it in half, right? All nice and neat. Starts eating it. He's loving it. He loves his custom. And it hit me then what happened, right? But also, as we were talking to him, he asked my son questions that he had asked earlier and answered. And he had forgot some things. And maybe his short-term memory was going. But during our visit at the house, he told me and Joshua who he served in the Marine Corps with. At MEPS, when he joined, when he first went in, he knew him by name. So amazing memory, right? Long-term memory. Which then I also knew, which goes to my next point, was when I started hanging out with my dad as a police officer in Rialto, because he lived there, I would go there during my shift. This was in my 30s. And I started talking to him about life. More, what we all try to do is look to our parents for guidance and information. So when he was done talking about the UFOs and Bigfoot and the conspiracy theories, we would talk about other things, to include Sunshine at the time, because I think he might have been living there, and I think Joey
He would
was like
keep candy bars for you.
Right. He would feed me. I don't think he gave me a donut, but it was him. Donut would be good. So I learned a lot from him during that time in my life, and then looking back at that time, even it was precious because I was able to spend a lot of time with him. But going back even further as a kid, and what happens is, so the connections all came to bear for me. Was one, he was a military guy. That I realized was something that we had in common, right? So we share stories. Even though he was in the Marine Corps in the 50s, and I joined the Army a lot later, we had some of the same stories and the same experiences. So that affinity grew, and I started kind of understanding my dad, but I also didn't realize what he had been through, where he had served. I wish I would have known that earlier in life. I didn't, because a divorce happened. And there's the other connection. What is it like to be a divorced father, and now your family's fractured, and you're trying to hold it all together? Okay? So knowing that firsthand now, I get it. I could criticize him all day long about not being in my life, or about whatever happened. But what happened was a divorce happened. And some of you might know that experience. If you don't know, don't do it. It's not cool, right? But when it happens, it fractures the family. And unfortunately, certain things happen along the path, the way of a divorce, and you're trying to keep up, and you can't. Because people are growing, and they're becoming their own people, their own grown adults. I got that from Dad, too. I realized it. Okay. Now I'm going through what he went through, trying to pick the pieces up from the military as well. Except I'm a lifetime military guy, so whatever. And we talked about that stuff before he died. And he gave me some golden nuggets of knowledge. And I appreciate that. He didn't have to. He could have closed his door and said, "No, I'm good," right? But he knew. He knew. And like my brother and sister said, he's just a smart man, full of wisdom. Yeah, we didn't have a connection on religion, right? But that don't matter. Still, a lot of the things that he studied probably in the Marine Corps in Japan, wherever he was, if it was Eastern religion, okay, right? That's what he did. The memories are limited as a child, But as I grew, I kind of understand who he was as a man. And even in the last time we visited him, and I wanted to go play pool because he was telling me he could beat me up on the pool table. I told him, "You're gonna get it. There's no way you can beat me," you know. And I wanted to take him to play pool, and I feel like I failed him in that. So, Dad, when I see you in heaven, I'm gonna get you on the pool table. I'll get you in the billiards. Thank you for coming today. I can't thank you guys enough. I know TC and Joe and Randy put a lot of work and time into this thing, and Angie and everybody else involved. But let's celebrate his life. I know he's in heaven. I know he's looking down on us and wishing everybody the best for their lives and just to love each other. Thanks a lot.
Anybody else? To say anything? Yes.
I just don't know if I
Yeah, you're best. You're
You're-
funny.
My dad saved me from being raised by an alcoholic mother. He made sure that he got custody of me because he knew that she wasn't going to take care of me. And I don't know what would have happened to me if he didn't take care of me. We had some really rough times. My dad was big on the Wiener Schnitzel coupons for mustard dogs for 50 cents. I had to eat the shit on a shingle a few times. I don't know if you've ever had that. The toast with the cream of mushroom soup on top. But he always made it good. Even when it was the shittiest food and, you know, no normal person would eat that, he made it good. You know, we sat down and ate it together and talked about whatever. But, you know, I had a lot of rough times and I wasn't the best person, which I apologize to you guys for. I didn't know what I was doing or why. So that's something I'll always regret, and I hate that it caused so many problems with me and Dad. But then I'm torn because I'm like, well, I was a kid, you know.
You were stubborn like
Nobody, I feel like nobody asked, you know, why is she doing this? What is going on, you know? And, you know, he was pushing 60 when I was a teenage girl. We were standing in line at Sizzler. My dad looked down and in front of everybody said, "Sunshine, it looks like it's time that you get a bra." And so a couple of days later, he took me to Mervin's. Remember Mervin's?
Oh yeah.
And he took me to the bra section, and there was a lady working there, and he goes, "This is my daughter. She needs a bra. I'll be back in an hour." And he left me with the girl. You know, I remember, I'm really good with the too much information, by the way, but I remember leaving a Post-it note on his bedroom door that says, "I started my period. I just thought you should know." Because I didn't know, you know, I thought he should know. I don't know. But, you know, that it was rough being a teenage girl with a 60-year-old father who, you know, when things were good, we used to go play tennis together. We were good at it too. And that's my pet peeve. I can't find anyone that can play tennis with me. They can't hit the damn ball back. Like, I'm standing there the whole time like, are we gonna play tennis or what? Anyway, but unfortunately when things weren't good, he was really big with the silent treatment. and that was rough. And I find that sometimes I do the same thing to the people that I love. Luckily, the person that I'm in love with understands a lot of that, and he knows all of this, and he says, you know, that's how you were raised, and that's how you dealt with your emotions, is to there would be days, you know, we'd walk past each other in the kitchen and there's no words. But when it was good, it was really good. He knew so much about everything, and I was inquisitive, and I would ask questions, and we would have wonderful conversations. He didn't speak to me for a whole year when I left California. But then when we started to talk, we talked almost every single day. And he would call me to tell me what kind of cheese he had on his sandwich. And I would indulge that because I knew that he didn't have a bunch of people every day to tell these things to, the most mundane things, you know. And I would just laugh and, oh yeah, I like Swiss too, it's great. You know, but we had some really nice conversations, and, you know, one of the things that I wrote on Facebook was how he had said, you know, he didn't regret having children. In fact, the whole time I was growing up, he was very proud of you guys. He always really had great things to say, and just, he really loved you guys, you know. And I know that he felt bad about how things ended up, you know. Well, he was, you know, I had a deal with, he was a ladies' man at a certain point in time. He had girlfriends here and there, and, you know, he could be very charming. It's so funny because in some ways he was like antisocial, but in other ways, like, people really, really liked talking to him, and he was very particular who he would speak Spanish with. He wouldn't, it had to be, you know, obviously Aunt Ellen, maybe a few other people, but like if a stranger spoke Spanish to him, he would pretend like he didn't speak Spanish.
Well, we're talking about that because Calvin actually got him to speak Spanish again.
Oh, wow.
And we were saying how he was particular about things when he talked to people because he knew so much. It was like he didn't want to indulge in it unless he knew that, okay, this is worth my effort.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He wasn't going to speak Spanish with me because, oh, you're learning it from the street.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm just rambling. I don't want a moment. I don't want it.
Well, we do. We like everything. We like hearing how it works. We're good things. We'll always be here for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? Good. We're all your family.
That's right.
Sunshine, I just want you to know that I heard a lot of your dad's conversations through Joe. They would talk every day. And your dad, you know, knew that you were on Facebook, knew that Joe was on Facebook, and, you know, Joe had contact with you on Facebook, and he would ask about you all the time. He'd always want to know, did you see did you see Sunshine on Facebook today? What's she up to? What's she doing? You know, he always wanted to know. I just, you know, just an observation that I had. I just wanted you to.
And that we should do spiritual. Yeah. how you're gonna reach you through.
Yeah.
Well, he tried to practice that
Yeah,
transcendental whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe he showed up in a dream, or I don't know.
Hey, watch for him because I'm here to tell you it happens.
He'll be there with Bigfoot.
In the last few weeks, there's been so many
Signs.
related things
Yeah,
happening to me.
it's not random.
Crazy.
It's
So-
not random. I don't, I believe in stuff like that. I had a lot of interesting conversations with him, and we shared a few of the same interests. When I was dating Joe, I don't even know if we were married yet, but Rudy called one night and Joe had a gig, and I picked up the phone, and I don't think we had ever really spoken before. I'm not sure, but it was
2 hours later.
it was no. We started talking about fishing, and I liked to fish and he loved to fish, and 3 hours later, it was probably the longest phone conversation probably I've ever had, and possibly he's ever had over the phone. So, that was our little introduction to each other. But I'd sit on the couch every night and listen to his conversations with Joe every night, and I'm gonna miss him too. That phone call. I still kind of expect that phone call to happen, and you forget, that he's not here for that phone call anymore. But I'm gonna miss him too.
Well, that's why I wore this shirt, because it has birds on it. And he always told me he wanted to be reincarnated as a bird.
Oh.
April, it's unfortunate that you're not that close to your brothers and sisters because they have thought about you. And I remember when you were little, TC brought you to a football, to one of Randy's baseball games, or I think it was Randy. And I was not allowed to see you. When you were little, he would come and bring you to visit the kids in the car. I don't know if you remember that. You came in the house, and TC said you have to go potty. For me to go hide, I couldn't see you. He didn't want me to be near you. It's weird. But then when you got older, remember you came to my house and I helped you with something. But I wish you could have reached out to your siblings when you were having all these problems with him, as you were growing up, because they could have helped you. You should have reached out to them, because you would have maybe still stayed in California.
You know what, Sunshine? That's in the past. Move forward, live for today and tomorrow, and
Right.
you know that you can always reach out with us. What was the past is the past. What do you know as a little girl at the time? On your own, being brought up by a weird dude.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that walking to school one day. He told me, you can always be weird, TC. Don't let anyone get on your nerve or tease you about anything. If you're weird, you're weird. I'll never forget that. And I always just thought it's because I was the only brown girl there when I was in school. It was because I was brown. I didn't know this. Because,
At least your name wasn't Sunshine.
right? I know it's TC or Sunshine. Oh my gosh. Right?
TC.
That's a great name.
There are some necklaces that my friend bought for me to put ashes in. And I go to open one, and there's a label, and it says TC on it. Like it's the number, the